My wife and I took my wife to a tour of Milton House, and I hadn't been there in a while, and they have a little orientation room, and they put on a video, and the screen is black, and it's somebody singing, "They bought 20 acres," and my wife said, "That sounds like you." And I said, "It is me." And what happened was, when I wrote this song like 20 years or 25 years ago, I sent a cassette to the Milton Historical Society, and being a small historical society in a small town, budgetary restraints and other things, they'd gone through a lot of directors. So the person who was director like 3 or 4 years ago had no idea where this tape came from. It just said Paradise Found on it. Oh, this is cool, we'll use this as the introduction to our tape. They had no idea who had written it. So when she came in to give the tour, I said, "Hey, that's me singing on the tape." She was so excited. It was like, I don't know, and not quite like George Clooney coming or something. But, you know, it was pretty exciting for Milton, at least. And so anyway, that was great fun to do that. But I need to move on. This is a song about Dick and I going to a tavern. Maybe your children, your grandchildren need to leave the room for this. There was one summer, Dick had just gotten back from Korea, and I had an equally unpleasant experience. I was going to Columbia University in New York City and had decided to quit because of a lot of reasons, I think valid. So we were not even at 6s and 7s that summer. Dick had just gotten back and was trying to get his life back in order, and my life was collapsing around me. So what's a fella to do when something like that happens? Dick had a car, by golly, and we decided that we would do an informal tour of every bar within driving distance. And Dick and I weren't real heavy drinkers, so it's all right. Your grandchildren don't need to be shocked. We would maybe have one beer at each bar, and we went to a lot of weird bars. And this was in the 60s, and there was still a bar out by what used to be the other roller rink. It still had outdoor toilets in the 60s, and I thought that was, even for Janesville, kind of primitive. But in any case, we started, after we went to a lot of these bars, we ended up spending most of our time, let's see where this is, yeah, at the Hilltop. The Hilltop is still there. Is it still called the Hilltop?
No.
Nothing is ever called anything the same, so I had to have footnotes on all these introductions. But I had been away from Janesville for quite a long time. I didn't remember the name of it anyway, so I called it the Evergreen Bar. But they had a non-electric electric guitar that they had. It was a nice guitar, but they didn't have an amplifier, so it was a solid body electric guitar with not a lot of volume. And the guys from the Rambler plant in Kenosha would come over on Friday nights, and they'd bring instruments along. It was a lot of fun. They weren't very good, although there was one guy who could play guitar holding it behind his back, but mostly they were just having a good time. And Dick and I came in, and Dick didn't have a mustache then. I did. At that time, walking into a bar in Janesville with a mustache was only slightly less provocative than wearing a dress, because nobody back in those days had mustaches. So we walked in, and we were just quiet, you know, we're just kind of college kids adrift, and we just sat down, had a beer, and didn't think much about it, and listened to the music, and after a couple of times, Dick said, "Why don't you go out and play guitar?" And I had learned finger picking by then. So I went over and asked this big burly guy, "When you're done, can I play a song, please?" And said, "Yeah," and kind of shoved it at me, and they thought Chet Atkins had just been reborn. They had never heard anybody finger pick. So when I finished my song, the beers started to get lined up in the bar. Everybody wanted to buy me, and by proxy, Dick. Well, we had in about 10 minutes, we had about a dozen beers lined up on the bar. And I don't think I could drink more than 2 beers without falling asleep. So it became a challenge, but they loved hearing me play so much that they did the most beautiful spiritual thing you could do at the Hilltop. They unplugged the bowling machine while I was playing. They didn't want any noise. So we went out there all the time. We had a good time. We made some friends there. Most of the guys worked at the plant in Kenosha, the Rambler plant. One night a couple of guys from high school came in, and I won't mention their names, but they were stars on the football team, and I was pretty much not a whole lot in high school. Not that I am now, but I definitely wasn't one of the shining stars of high school. And these guys had been on the football team, and they came in and they saw me playing guitar and was, "Oh, Rasmussen, what are you doing?" And, you know, making a lot of insults to me and to the guys from the Rambler plant. And that's where the story will take you. You'll find out what happened to them. And the chorus is, "You'll go dancing to the tune of the Rambler Boys." And these are the boys from Kenosha. Over in Kenosha where the Ramblers grew, they had themselves one tough old crew. On Friday night when the week was done, they like to have a little fun. It's Friday night at the Evergreen bar, picking out a tune on my old guitar. And when you walk through the door, you don't make no noise. You'll go dancing to the tune of the Rambler Boys. Buy him a drink, Jim, set him up right, I don't pay. Good, I'm gonna start over. It's been a while since I've done this. Buy him a drink, Jim, set him up right, 'cause the Rambler Boys are hot tonight, and they like their music loud and strong. They plan to stay here all night long. It's Friday night at the Evergreen bar, picking out a tune on my old guitar. And when you walk through the door, you don't make no noise, or you'll go dancing to the tune of the Rambler Boys. A couple old jocks from the high school team, busting in the back door acting mean, laughing at the music and making noise, cracking jokes about the Rambler Boys. It's Friday night at the Evergreen bar, picking out a tune on my old guitar. And when you walk through the door, you don't make no noise, or you go dancing to the tune of the Rambler Boys. Well, grab 'em by the neck, Jim, out through the door. I don't pay to make the Rambler Boys get sore. Out on the back lot and down on their knees, begging Jim, don't hurt us, please. It's Friday night at the Evergreen bar, picking out a tune on my old guitar. And when you walk through the door, you don't make no noise, or you'll go dancing to the tune of the Rambler Boys. Now just what happened I never could tell, but I know those boys was scared as hell, and they never came back to the bar again. The Rambler Boys just sit and grin. It's Friday night at the Evergreen bar, picking out a tune